Power on.
This town needs an enema. Well, I don't know about this town. I'm not going to tell you what town. But bottom line being, those that know where those immortal words come from. And of course, that comes from one of the, if not the greatest comic book movie of all time. That being the 1989 Tim Burton Batman film. An absolute classic, well ahead of its time. And I just recently, the Golden Stallion, the Man of Tomorrow, Savzu, the Rated R radio star, I just recently saw this for its 30th anniversary. I can't believe it's 30 years old, but I was not alone. Oh, no. I went with my movie partner for this action. And that, of course, is Ellen Stallone, the mistress of mystery. I don't know. I want to come up with a bunch of like 1966 Batman references and like style names for you. But anyway, Ellen, welcome to, I don't know, what am I going to call this? Movies with Ellen? I don't know. I should call this something.
Yeah, we'll come up with our own movie review name.
Yeah, because we're going to catch a bunch of these.
Right.
Because they're re-releasing all four movies within this series. I guess celebrating the 30th anniversary, which there's Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. We're going to see all of these. In fact, we're going to be catching Batman Returns here actually just after we record this.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, which Tim Burton also did. Tim Burton didn't do all of these, but he did do that one. So, I don't know, we'll figure out some kind of title for this. But, this is Zomia ONE Underground content only.
Yeah, we'll come back with a movie review name. It'll be more official.
Yeah, we'll make it good. So, but anyway, just to get this out here, so you and I went and saw this. It's a nationwide event. There were a bunch of different theaters that were taking part in playing Batman, the 89 Batman, for its 30th anniversary. An interesting time for it to come out, considering that I think this is around when it came out originally, back in 89, but to take on Avengers Endgame, I think it's kind of brilliant, because for DC to come out swinging with one of its best comic book movies ever, definitely right up there with the 78 Superman and Wonder Woman, was a bold move. And of course, they had great success with Aquaman recently as well. So to talk about this movie, I think it'd be great to talk about like the movie. We might get into a conversation around maybe some of the social commentary that I think exists within this film, but we'll save that for later. We can talk about reviewing, the music, the effects, the Batmobile, all these different things in this film, and get into the action and things like that. Look at it more at face value, perhaps initially. But Ellen, you never saw this movie.
Maybe when I was younger, but effectively, I guess you could say I never saw it because I went into it not really knowing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's true for a lot. Actually, when we go see Batman Returns, I haven't seen that since I was a little guy. It was one of the first movies I ever saw in theaters, and I barely remember that movie. Anyway, we'll save that for when we talk about Batman Returns. Okay, so this is kind of new for you. How familiar were you with like the character of Batman before going into seeing this?
He's part of culture, like popular culture, so of course I've like seen him on comic book covers, and
yeah,
I'm aware of the movies and maybe have some vague memories of them. So
you're not going in totally blind.
No, I have a superficial sort of knowledge of who Batman is.
Right.
Guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're not like, I mean, I know you enjoy comic books, or at least now, but like, you're not like a comic book aficionado. You wouldn't consider yourself that kind of.
No.
Yeah,
no,
sure.
Not like you.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm fucking insane. So no, I don't expect anybody to be quite like me. But yeah, that's fair. So you're going into this and you're seeing it more. Like the problem is for me as a comic book, I guess I'll say aficionado, is when I go into a lot of these movies, or comic book movies, is I'm looking for fidelity to the original material that I've grown up with my whole life. Now, granted, when this came out, I was 8 years old. And this is the only movie in this series. It's actually the only Batman movie that I haven't seen in theaters, minus the 1966 one. So it was actually, I'll admit, it was really nice to finally rectify that situation. And see this movie in theaters properly, and I couldn't think of a better person to see it with, frankly, because, you know, if you're not a comic book aficionado, Ellen, you sure as hell are a nerd. I mean, you are as nerdy as they fucking come, and I say that with as a full-on compliment.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, I mean, but you're going into this as just somebody that appreciates art and somebody that can appreciate cinema.
Yeah, and I certainly appreciate other people's nerddom and excitement about comic books.
Yeah. So we went in, we go and catch this, okay, and there's a few other people in the theater.
Yeah, about 8.
Yeah,
Eight.
Right, wasn't selling out. I mean, it's amazing to consider. Like, this is to keep this in perspective, is that when the 89 Batman film came out, nobody thought comic book movies were worth a damn. You were getting these second-rate even though I enjoy some of these, like the two Captain America films from the 80s, you're getting these second-rate TV movies, effectively, and nobody's taking comic book movies seriously other than Christopher Reeve as Superman, but that's seen as an anomaly. When we go and see when you and I, Ellen, went and saw the 89 Batman film, okay, there's Shazam is in theaters, Avengers Endgame is in theaters, Captain Marvel is in theaters. I mean, the deck is stacked of all comic book movies and huge movies, and movies all of which got amazing critical reviews. Now, Batman, minus the 78 Superman, is one of the first comic book movies, or is really the first comic book movie to get like widespread acclaim. And in fact, what was really nice is, and I hope they're going to do this for all of these movies, there was a nice introduction that went about, I don't know, what'd you say, 5-10 minutes, where a guy was talking about the film and the production of it and everything. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was kind of short.
Yeah, but that was good. I mean, did you find that helpful? How did seeing that introduction from DC, explaining the importance of this film and things, and as far as this production goes, how did you, was that prepping? How did you feel about that before you even saw the movie?
Well, I kind of liked that it, gave you a bit of history and perspective going into it. It made me see it as a film that did have some sort of effect on the culture, on people.
Right.
It kind of paved the way for future movies like that. So, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and I thought there were things that I learned in it that I didn't know about the 89 Batman film. Particularly, this is a film that was basically 10 years in the making. The guys that ended up putting it together had held the rights since 1979. There were a lot of I knew that there were other people kind of getting picked out for the roles of Batman or for the Joker, but some of the names that they bantied about in the in this kind of little making special really that they had in the beginning were very interesting. So there were some interesting tidbits to take away from that, including I love when they were talking about the art director for the movie, that he was basically saying, I want Gotham to look like hell exploded under the sidewalks, and it just didn't stop, and it just kept going. Yeah, and I thought that was so brilliant. So that definitely sets you up for understanding this film, and I think I enjoyed that, and like I said, I hope they do it for each one. The most interesting one I can't wait to see is for when they talk about Batman and Robin, the movie Batman and Robin with Schwarzenegger and all the rest of them. So anyway, that said, let's talk a bit about, now I don't need to explain the story here, everybody knows the story. I mean, even you have like a cultural idea of who Batman is and what he's about.
Sure, he's like the Dark Knight,
Yeah, and he's one of the rare superheroes that's human. He's not like an alien. He doesn't actually have superpowers. He has his wits, his brilliance, and of course his money. That there's a very famous joke about that from the Justice League movie where Aquaman asks him, "What's your superpower?" and he says, "Oh, I'm rich." So, and that of course is on display in this. So I think it's worthwhile to talk about the actors. This is a very star-studded cast. You have Michael Keaton as Batman. Jack Nicholson, of course, as the Joker. You have Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale. You have an interesting thing that I wish continued, but you had Billy D. Williams, of course, best known as Lando Calrissian from Star Wars, playing Harvey Dent. I mean, you've got just tremendous actors throughout this whole damn thing. Jack Palance is in it. In fact, that was great. As soon as the credits start rolling, we see the name for Jack Palance, which I even forgot that he played Boss Grissom in this. But you instantly, Ellen,
you're like, wait a minute.
Oh, Jack Palance? Yeah. And it just lends for some great moments. Because Jack Palance just has that voice. And of course, you knew him from, you watched Ripley's
Believe It or Not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which of course I watched all the time as well. Just his classic, believe it or not. I mean, you just, I love that. So anyway, well, let's talk about the acting. I mean, how did you feel about Michael Keaton as Batman, Jack Nicholson as the Joker? Those are kind of the two big ones.
Okay. Well, I feel like they took the roles really seriously. Like Michael Keaton, especially. Very, very serious. It seemed like he was always pondering something. Like there was this heavy weight on his shoulders. Like he was keeping a secret, and he wanted to say it, but he couldn't tell anyone.
Right.
And I'm sure it takes a toll on someone like being the watcher of the city. But you could really, I really felt that being portrayed in every moment that he was on screen.
Which, a comment on that quick, that's an important thing for you to bring up and to catch. Because Michael Keaton, I don't know how many Michael Keaton movies you'd seen.
Quite a few.
Okay, sure. So, I mean, even before 89, you think Mr. Mom or a lot of these other ones, he was a comedic actor.
Right.
He was not like a serious actor. And so for him, for you to sense his seriousness in the role, I think is an interesting thing. Please continue.
Yeah. No, he really portrayed that well. And I couldn't really sense his madness until, with the Joker, with Jack Nicholson, he's so good at portraying that really loose cannon sort of craziness.
Yeah.
Just like his creepy smile, the way that he moves, he's very charismatic. But
yes.
You can just tell that, he's not all there.
Yeah, right.
He's the perfect person for that role, especially his maniacal laughing.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson, I mean, I think it almost comes off as sexy. He's so good at it, and he brings it so much to life that it really, for me, it almost comes off as that, or at least, maybe not sexy, but classy. Because it's just so believable that he's doing everything that he's doing, and that's hard to do, in my opinion, with a lot of these movies, that you actually believe the actor is really who they're portraying in a very real way. Because I think of Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man. He's just being Robert Downey Jr. He's not Iron Man.
Yeah.
And that goes for especially a lot of modern Marvel characters. But Jack Nicholson, you really felt was the Joker. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the Joker's madness, is very laughable. He's smiling all the time, but you can tell that that's kind of just just beneath the surface, there's this maniacal, murderous side to him.
Yeah.
So his madness is very obvious, whereas with Michael Keaton, it's not so obvious until they get together, and then it's. I'm thinking of the scene where they're in Vicky Vale's apartment, and Batman smashes the. I'm sorry, Michael Keaton smashes the place, so he says, "Let's get crazy."
Yeah, he's like, "Want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts." Yeah, and he just kind of snaps. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so I mean, and another thing that you pointed out, I think, after we saw the movie, when they were first Michael Keaton walks into her apartment, and then later the Joker walks in, and they both say exactly the same thing. Right. Which is oh, nice apartment, very spacious, lots of space.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's an interesting point to bring up, because in the comic books, this gets explored a lot, that Batman and the Joker are really just two sides of the same coin. A future Christopher Nolan film, in fact, arguably what some people say is genuinely the greatest comic book movie of all time, which is The Dark Knight, a Batman film, not part of this series. But that's very much played up, that they are two sides of the same coin. And so for them to say some similar things, they both have a type of madness. It's just one happens to be, you could say, is on the side of justice. The other is on the side of whatever the fuck the Joker is. I mean, the guy just doesn't care. So yeah, that's an interesting point to bring up. And for them to, I think the acting is so brilliant in this. You wouldn't think Michael Keaton. I still don't think Michael Keaton when I think Batman. I just don't. But man, is he good. and Jack Nicholson. Now, Jack Nicholson, I do think Joker. As much as I love the 66 portrayal, I don't care much for the Dark Knight portrayal, but I definitely think Joker. But do you have any other comments on the acting overall?
Oh, I just thought that, their choices for the Joker and for Batman were perfect. They're excellent. I mean, Michael Keaton was kind of surprising, but, it really turned out well. Especially when he has on the bat suit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that he just doesn't look like a very imposing character, but when he puts on the bat suit, and there's something about the way that the turn, he can't move his head.
Yeah,
so
the epic turn.
Moves his whole upper body.
Right.
It just makes him seem more powerful and imposing.
Yeah, he definitely jumps into this role, and he makes everything just very believable. He makes a great Batman. So you haven't seen this yet, but when we see Batman Forever, I've made the argument that I don't know. There's some people who are really good at playing Bruce Wayne, but they're not good at playing Batman, and then there's the other way around. And yeah, Michael Keaton was just brilliant in this. Billy D. Williams was a lot of fun as Harvey Dent. I wish he was in more of this series, but he ends up not being, and he gets replaced by Tommy Lee Jones. Whatever. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation to have there. How do you feel about? Let's talk about the music a bit, because this is where a lot of people first hear of Danny Elfman, who has become a major composer in Hollywood over the years, over the decades, frankly, and also has a very synergistic relationship with Tim Burton, who's the director of this film. We'll talk about the direction in a minute. But I mean, how did you feel about the music? Some people consider this another one of those things, not just the greatest comic book movie, but one of the greatest, if not the greatest comic book soundtrack ever. To say nothing of Prince's music, we'll talk about that as well. But I mean, how did you feel about Danny Elfman's scoring? The da-da-da-da, all that.
So I thought it was brilliant and very epic.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wanted to mention, although these aren't main characters, a lot of the smaller parts, the actors that were doing background characters, they really made the film. They gave it a sort of darker, grungy atmosphere, and I feel like the music really did that too. It helped to paint that picture and make it feel like you were really in hell and something epic is about to happen.
Right.
So I really enjoyed the score. I feel like it definitely took me on an emotional roller coaster. How do you feel about the Batman theme that you hear in it? That kind of that main opening theme. I mean, heroic? What does it say to you? Maybe. I mean, there might be some heroicism in there. Certainly courage.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that it's a pure sort of heroism though. It's kind of I don't know, you can just sense that it's an obligation for him, that he's this imposing figure and he just does what he does because he has to and not necessarily because it's a desire for everyone to be happy and for the world to be perfect.
Interesting. Yeah, because some of that comes off like a drum roll. And, when you think drums, marching to the drum and everything, I feel like the percussion is a very, I don't want to say militaristic, but there's a sense of duty of marching to it, even if it's fast paced, which that's a fast paced theme. I never really thought about that though. I think, just hearing it as a kid all the time, I just kind of took it at face value. But yeah, there's something there to what you're saying. I like this. Okay. That's, yeah. I mean, other than kind of the main theme, of course, there's a lot of, Prince did an entire album for this. Of course, the late, great Prince. I mean, how did you feel about Prince's entries in this? The two big ones that people remember are Trust, when the balloons are coming out. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's Party Man, which is when they're doing the whole art, they're in the art museum and everything. But how did you feel about those songs?
Oh, I thought it was so fun. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it kind of adds to the Joker's madness, but yeah. I mean, Prince is just, what a pop artist.
Yeah.
It really made that, the scene in the art museum where they're redecorating.
Right.
It felt like a party,
Yeah. There's a joke about Prince being Dr. Purple. Or not a joke, but there's a reference, a cultural reference to that. And he wore purple a lot. And of course, Purple Rain, classic film, classic album. I almost wonder, and I don't know, I wonder if Tim Burton was we got to get the Man in Purple doing music for the Man in Purple. Because it's almost like Prince's madness, and Prince, I think, was a musical magician, And he certainly had his own madness. I mean, you listen to like Rave to a New Generation, things like that. I'm a big Prince fan. But anyway, yeah, it worked well for the Joker. Lots of fun, like you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think Prince's skill in making fun music really, like, that helped a lot in making the Joker seem, like, extra crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would have worked so well if they'd chosen any other music.
Yeah, I mean, and he was white hot at this time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, having Prince on there just added more to the, you know, the prestige, dare I say, of the film. A lot there. So, okay. So Prince's music, that worked. Lots of fun. Party Man, of course, great song. Danny Elfman's music, you have no concerns around it. Did you ever think there was anything lacking musically with the film?
No, I mean, honestly, compared to most films, I think that had a lot more, like, engaging and interesting music.
Yeah, I feel like this is something missing from a lot of modern films, even comic book films, is that, I don't know, like most movies 20 years ago, even just 20 years ago, had like multiple themes within them, you know, and there are multiple themes in this. There's a bit of a love theme whenever Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne are together or something. Hell, even Alfred, which, by the way, Michael Gough's performance as Alfred, even you admitted, like, wow, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, classic Hammer actor, did a lot of horror movies back in the day. He's just tremendous, and he keeps the series grounded, in my opinion. And I think it made sense for them to reboot the Batman series after Michael Gough would die, really after the last one in the series. But in any case, yeah, he was tremendous. Let's talk about the direction. Let's talk about Tim Burton. I mean, how did you feel about the tone of this movie? Did you think it was too nuts, too over the top, too ridiculous? Give me some comments on tone.
Okay, well, I certainly felt the darkness and the creepiness. I could certainly sense Tim Burton's touch. Like, there's a scene where Batman is driving with Vicky Vale to his Batcave.
Yep.
And they're going through woods, through this countryside. And the trees are just this creepy, kind of like windy shape that's very characteristic of Burton.
Yeah.
So, like, if you didn't catch it before then,
like, right.
It's just every Burton movie that I've ever seen has that sort of, like, feeling to it, like the darkness, the twisty vines and whatnot,
and creepy.
Yeah, very creepy.
Yeah,
and like you could feel that pretty much all throughout the film, except for like certain scenes where they're in the mansion, or like Vicky Vale herself, she's often depicted as like brighter and more, I don't know, not like
more normal,
innocent, but yeah, normal.
Yeah, more normal. Sure.
But I certainly enjoyed the Tim Burton sort of darkness.
The touch on it.
Yeah, I mean, like with the Joker, he was kind of over the top crazy, but it's also a comic book movie. There's a lot of things that happen where you have to suspend belief, like the fact that he survives falling into the vat of chemicals.
Yeah, right.
He's like washed up on the shore 2 miles downstream or whatever, and now he's got green skin and this huge smile from nerves being chopped. But I frankly, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the craziness and the creepiness. I think it worked really well with the film, and especially Batman, like what created Batman, what sort of events in his life like forced him to become what he was.
Yeah.
It all really tied in with the story.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion on it, I think Tim Burton's direction was phenomenal. I think his touch worked for Gotham, being this very city of the night. A lot of people, or there's an old saying that Gotham City is New York City at night and Metropolis is just New York City in the day. So really you're just trying to capture a different vibe of New York City. I think he did that very well. His Art Deco style, all that stuff is on display. I do think this is a movie, and I'll just say this quick, where Tim Burton, now he had just come off doing Pee Wee Herman, and he did Beetlejuice, which is just a ridiculous film. But I feel like he was kind of kept, because Batman was such a big deal, he was kept on a tight leash. And so his touches are there, but I feel like they're just touches. I mean, this isn't Demon Barber. This isn't Edward Scissorhands. This is like none of that, or it's not Willy Wonka or anything along those lines. But the touches make it larger than life enough to where it works as a comic book movie. So I really like this from Tim Burton, and I would watch like Tim Burton movies for years after this because I'm like, well, it's Tim Burton. He's, he did this, like, and this is awesome. But I don't know. I never became like a huge Tim Burton fan. Just because I feel like he never delivered anything else quite like the '89 Batman, even Batman Returns. But we'll talk about that when we get to that. So, but something that I think his style called for was the Batmobile.
Yes.
And the Batmobile, this Batmobile, again, also widely considered the greatest of all time. What did you think of the Batmobile when you first see this baby roll up?
Oh, I thought it was so beautiful. I mean, it's got this like turbine engine.
Yeah.
It looks like it, could just blast off.
Yeah.
It looks, and it's also super sporty. The way that it takes corners in this film. I mean, of course, it's got like the rope that winds around the pole.
Yeah, with the grappling hook. Yep.
Exactly. But no, I thought it was beautiful, and the shields on it were amazing too. Like, shields down, and then it just turns into this like tank. This case.
Yeah, it's amazing to consider, like, those voice-activated commands. Mm-hmm. I remember, first seeing that and thinking, wow, that is so nuts, and even just 10 years ago, joking around with a guy about, like, referencing that where you're talking to a car and a car, like, starts moving and things like this.
Yeah, self-driving.
Right. That's all stuff that people, I think, would not find that fantastic today. That's not commonplace. It's not really at market yet, but I don't think it would surprise people. But boy, at the time in '89, I remember everybody and their mother just thinking, fuck, that's so cool. It is a sleek looking vehicle, no doubt about it. And the jet, and it still looks so good. And that's the thing, because it's not a product of its time. It's just some kind of timeless art. Maybe because it did look out of time, because it had that Art Deco style or whatever that makes it timeless. Because every other Batmobile I feel like kind of looks like its era. Even the '66 Batmobile, which is one of my favorites, I can admit, looks like it's from the '60s. This one just looks like that's Batman, and there's no time frame whatsoever. Just that's exactly what Batman would drive. How about the Batwing? What did you think of the Batwing?
Oh, I thought it was very cool. I mean, the design on it looked like, it just looked like it could fly very well. When it like swoops down over the city and grabs onto those balloons.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
What other, jet plane can you do that with?
Right. And just for Jack Nicholson as a Joker is like, why didn't somebody tell me I had one of those things?
He's taking my balloons.
He stole my balloons. Now that's one of the biggest things to get into with this movie is so funny. And the idea, I think, of comic book movies being funny, now that's a given. Like, everybody expects Marvel's sense of humor in comic book movies and everything. This movie's hilarious at times, sometimes creepily so. Like, I mean, it's a very dark humor because it's fucking Tim Burton.
Sure.
But this is a funny ass film. I mean, you just find yourself dying laughing, not only from Jack Nicholson, but just about everybody involved. What did you think of the comedy?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that made this film so memorable was that the funny moments, the comedic moments, it's not every moment. They don't just follow like one after the other.
Right.
Like a lot of modern movies and television series do. It's well timed and they're spaced out. And it comes like when you need it the most. Like the line, we cracked up laughing so hard when the Joker was like, "Never rub another man's rhubarb."
Yeah, it's perfect.
And it was right after a really tense moment in the film.
Well, they just shot Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And never rub another man's rhubarb. Yeah, perfect. What more do you have on that?
Oh, I thought the delivery was great. The writing was really clever.
It is a clever script. Yeah, a very clever script. And another thing about it is that you feel for the Joker, I think. Or like you have a sense of the character. You understand, even though he is the Joker traditionally, and in this movie, is a motivationless character. It's just a character that's just nuts and will just do anything. Somehow, even that plays off as a villain that you can appreciate or understand, or you get what's going to happen, and it has story. There's story arc for the villain as much as there is for the hero in this, or for the protagonist and antagonist. I don't necessarily want to say one's a hero or the other. But you don't get that in modern comic book movies. Usually the villain, you have no fucking clue what the hell they're about. And you don't even really care. They're just there to kind of shine the hero on, as to where with this, they were both center stage. Now, so let me ask you this. I want to kind of wrap this up, because I think we're going to get into a bigger conversation as we see more films in this series. What would you say, because this is a movie that has so many great lines in it because of that clever script. What's your favorite line of the movie? Is it the rhubarb?
Oh my gosh, I wish you had asked me this earlier.
Yeah, I should have, so that
yeah.
you can think about it. Well, if you want to think about it, I'll get into with mine.
Okay, yeah, what's yours?
Okay, well, I know a lot of people everybody remembers the first time when Michael Keaton the guy's like, "Who are you?" And he just says, "I'm Batman." and it is awesome. Like when he delivers it, you believe it, and it's there and it's on, and it's so great. I mean, the line where, he's like, you weigh a little more than 120.
Yeah.
That was pretty perfect. I don't know. I kind of have to go with, never rub another man's rhubarb. I mean, it's just, it's so well timed. It's so perfect. I mean that, or when Joker's doing, this guy used brand X. But it's hard. I mean, that's the problem. I guess that's kind of the point of that I'm bringing up, is that it's very difficult of what's the favorite quote from the movie, because there's so many great lines in it. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't hit a man with glasses, would you? Or when he says to Vicky Vale, it's we're like Beauty and the Beast, but if anyone else ever calls you Beast, I'll rip their lungs out.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know which one comes up for you. Any thought on that now?
Oh, if I had to pick one right now, I'd say it's probably one of the lines from The Butler. And I know this is
no,
it's probably not funny or exciting, but I think he was talking to Michael Keaton about how he didn't want to spend the rest of his days watching the children of his friends die.
Oh yeah, watching his friends or children of them. Yeah.
And I mean, I just thought that was really sweet, and he's trying to get him to do the right thing. Yeah,
trying to get Bruce Wayne to live.
Yeah. And to return Vicky Vale's calls or something.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants him to be happy. He realizes and sees and experiences firsthand what sort of difficult life he's leading.
Yeah.
And he just wants him to have some love.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of gets put on display in this, which is interesting for a lot of reasons, because Batman is not known for his romantic relationships historically. Today, now he's married in the comic books to Selena Kyle and whatever. But, the relationship between Batman and Catwoman, I think, will be a great thing to discuss in the next entry in the Batman series that we will do a review for, which will come out very shortly after this ends up coming out. So, I'd ask you, Ellen, where do you want to rate this? How do you compare this to other comic book films? But, I mean, do you feel comfortable giving a rating between 1 and 10? 10 being, the best movie ever made, or around that? And if you don't want to compare it to other comic book films, you don't have to.
Oh, I'd say it's pretty high up there. I'd give it a 9 out of 10 as far as comic book movies go.
Yeah.
It's got everything. It's got the great actors, great music, very artistic.
Mm-hmm.
I love the story.
Great lines.
Yeah, it's got it all.
Yeah, 9 out of 10. I would not argue much with that. I'm happy to give it a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
I mean, I really am. It's not as good, or I don't know. It's tough. It's on par with Superman, the 78 Superman, which we should review that sometime, because you and I watched that. And that's an absolute classic. So anyway, okay, why don't we go see Batman Returns? And
hopefully there's more romance in this one.
Well, if there is, it's pretty kinky shit. So,
right.
so we'll return after seeing Batman Returns. Ellen, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Woo! See you on the other side.